Greetings and salutations. Thanks for hanging out with me for a while. It is a very early Saturday morning. Linux Mint Debian edition was released yesterday. We are in the middle of Outbreak 2020, so we are on Lockdown 2020 around here. And I am recording this video in the wee small hours of the morning, so I got to kind of keep it quiet. This is when I can actually get to a computer to do it. And so I figured what we'd do is just take a look around. This is not a review. This is not a how-to. This is me reading the release notes and installing the latest version of Linux Mint Debian Edition and taking a look around. That's all it is. I'll probably miss stuff, probably get some stuff wrong. That's part of the fun of the video, gang. Okay? So here we are on the release notes. Let's scroll and take a look here. I'm recording this video on a different machine than I'm usually doing videos on. This is an Asus portable workstation, really. It's more than a laptop because it's got like a desktop processor in it. It's got an i7, it's got NVIDIA graphics, it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM, it's got 2 hard drives in it. This machine is really a beast, and my son uses it mainly to play games, but I have found it's a great machine to actually do virtualization on. So that's why we're doing it over here. The only problem is there's a touchpad, and I'm a little wonky with touchpads, so you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. So they're just talking about what Linux Mint Debian Edition is. This is a version of Linux Mint that is based directly on Debian and not on Ubuntu. And they have been maintaining this for many years now. I mean, you might say, well, it's only version 4. Well, each version lasts for several years. This is not like the lockstep cadence of the Linux Mint release cycle that we have for the Ubuntu-based version, and which is related to the Ubuntu release cycle, which is like once every 6 months or so. No, LMDE can go for a long time. As a matter of fact, you could consider it to be a semi-rolling release. So let's see here. What do we get this time around? We get additional partitioning, or automatic partitioning rather, with support for LVM and full disk encryption, home directory encryption. We've got support for automated installation of NVIDIA drivers. That's nice. We've got NVMe support. And for those of you who aren't tech heads, that means those are the little solid-state drives that go on motherboards really super fast. So that is in here as well. Let's see. We've got secure boot support. Well, that's nice. ButterFS sub-volume support. Got a revamped installer. Automatic installation of microcode packages. That is the little driver packages that go along with your CPU. Automatic resolution bump for live session to a maximum of 1024 by 768 in VirtualBox. Well, we will not be using VirtualBox today. We're going to use GNOME boxes. Linux Mint 19.3 improvements, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, this basically looks like this is an update on what they were doing in LMDE 3. They've just rebased on Buster with a few changes, and that's pretty much what I thought it would be. System requirements. They're saying 1 gigabyte. I would never even attempt to run this thing on 1 gigabyte. 2 gigabytes is going to be... You could get away with it if all you were ever going to do was open up email. If you tried to do that and watch like YouTube videos or do anything like that, it would be probably a head-banging experience. Disk space, 20 gigabytes. 1024 by 768 resolution. Says the 64-bit ISO can boot with BIOS or UEFI. The 32-bit can only boot with BIOS. Upgrade instructions. Let's run over here and take a look at that. Okay. So we go to the Linux Mint blog. The upgrade instructions are available at. Okay. So let's click again. Oh my. Let's see what this is. This is a tutorial. Let's make it real big for both you and me. Makes it easier for me to see and you too. We're not going to read any of this. We're just looking ahead. Apply all package updates. Create a system snapshot. So far, so good. Downgrade unofficial Debian multimedia packages. Remove the debmultimedia.org repository. Well, there ain't no .org there. It's just org, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, I would probably not attempt doing that if you are running LMDE 3. Better to go ahead and back up all your data and reinstall, baby. Looks like that's the way to go. I don't know. Maybe if I was running it, I would try it, but it seems a bit complex to me. Not that it's impossible or anything, especially if you have a little bit of experience with Linux, but it's just seems to be quite the project. So let us start a new machine, and let's grab the ISO, which is sitting on the desktop here. And we'll select a file. A desktop. There's our file. And I do want to bump the memory up just a bit. Yeah, it's going to give it 21 gigabytes. That's fine. Yeah, 4.2 is perfectly all right. Should be enough for what we're doing at least, right? Forward. Or create. Go ahead. Okay. There we go. I click the button. Okay. Let's go ahead and make this big. And we're going to start LMDE 4. First thing on the list there. I didn't see an OEM option for this. Now, I've done several of these videos, and some people freak out about them because they're like, well, you didn't know what you were doing, and you're doing a disservice to the distribution, and people say stuff like that. Well, let me tell you what, I'm doing what everybody else who is even mildly interested in the Linux Mint Debian edition. They're loading it up, they're poking around with it, and they're playing with it. That's how you learn anyway, right? I'm just recording it as I go. So we'll see what this looks like running in GNOME boxes. So far, so nothing. The hard drive is crunching, so it's actually doing it. Oh, there we go. We got a desktop. Let's see if this bar will go away if I click on it. Yes, it will. So it seems to me that everything's running. Let's go ahead and click install. I clicked it. Oh, it wants a double click. There we go. Welcome. Man, that is tiny print for that installer. We're going to squint our way through this one, ain't we? Yeah, English is fine. The time zone it's picked Eastern. That's fine. Keyboard is fine. Now it's going to ask me for my name. Bill Schmidlap. All right. Computer's name. May take it, may not. I'm trying to remember whether Debian likes uppercase or not. I don't remember, honestly. Let's see here. We'll just put in. All right. Are you happy with that information? Yes. And we'll go ahead and yep, Debian does not like lowercase. In case you couldn't see that, it said that the name of the computer must be lowercase. I have never run Debian for any period of time. I've played with it, but it's just not my cup of tea. I have always found it to be too restrictive, if you know what I mean. Let's see. I want to do the automatic installation, so go ahead and do that. Please select disks. Okay. Well, automatic should be automatic, shouldn't it? There's only one anyway in a virtual machine. Well, what's the deal here? Okay, click. And I say, yep, that's the one, baby. Click on that. All right, now it's got a disk to work with. Yeah, sure, there ain't nothing on it anyway, man. It's a virtual machine. Go ahead and make a partition table. Sure, that's fine with me. Yeah, go ahead. Well, we got that going at least, huh? So, there shouldn't be anything more to see in the installation process. It should sit here and crunch. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording for a little while. And we'll be back when there's something more to do. That crunched along for quite some time, actually. It says it's complete, and it's asking me if I want to reboot the machine. Why, of course, the answer is yes. I'd really just rather sit here and look at this message for the rest of the night. No, you can say no and then close that, and if there's anything else that you need to do before you restart it, you can do it. Well, we're going to go ahead and restart. See what happens, at least. Wonder if it's going to lock up. Most of the time in boxes and in virtual box as well, when you go to restart, they lock up. Now why, I don't know. And it looks like that we might be in that same situation. No, okay. Alright. So it seems to be restarting. Let's go ahead and open that up. And let's go ahead and make that full screen. Got that lovely weird little pattern going on there. And here comes the desktop. Here comes the desktop. You know, I was sitting here thinking about it while I was watching this thing install. It really doesn't seem like that long ago that we did LMDE 3. That's been just maybe, what, 2 or 3 years ago? Because I did a lot of beta testing for LMDE 3 at the time. I was working closely with the project. And Well, to be quite honest with you, it pissed me off a little bit because I found a couple of bugs that I reported and even supplied fixes for. And when the final release of LMDE 3 came out, they didn't fix them. The bugs were in the final release. And that was a real head scratcher for me. I was like, reported it. They acknowledged it. I gave them the fix. They said thank you. And then didn't include it. So, well, just like the Ubuntu-based version of Linux Mint, we get that software rendering notification. Linux Mint is the only distribution of Linux, I think, out there that does that. If it doesn't like the graphics. So here's your welcome screen. I'll take a look at that in a couple of minutes. It shouldn't be that terribly different from Linux Mint, the regular version based on Ubuntu. But I want to go in here. I want to see if I can fix the screen resolution and make this a little bit more viewable. Probably could have done that before we installed, but I had already clicked on the installer and I didn't want to mess with it. So now we are waiting for the settings to pop up, and there they are. So I want to go into... You guys want a dark theme? That seems to be going. It's not locked up, but it is definitely running slow, and I'm looking at the hard drive light, and it is just wide open. So I'm wondering what this thing is doing in the background. I have clicked on this, and it's not coming up. There we go. That could have been me misclicking. Okay, we'll do dark, and we'll come down here, and we're going to do what? Yeah, we're going to do something dark. Anything dark. That's what we want, is dark, right? And we got that set. Let's go back here and font selection. Yeah, man, I don't know what this machine is doing, but the hard drive is, and it's definitely Linux Mint doing it, and I'll tell you why. There are two hard drives in this machine, and one of them is a spinning drive, which has the home directory on it, and that's the one that's going. So, I don't know what they're doing there. Find out in a minute. Probably updating in the background, the cache and all that stuff. Let's make this bigger so we can see. Yay! Let's see here. Let's go check date and time. Let's switch it over to a 24-hour clock. Or turn it off, rather, make it AM, PM. This is just, there is I have such a procedure for setting up Linux Mint these days that I just know these settings and I just go down through them. So, we don't have to change that for the video, but it's habit. It's like, well, let's put that there. That's desktop settings. I want to get to, well, we go from defaults to desktop. Let's see if we can find their screensaver there. Their startup. Okay. Go down the list, please. Thank you. Keyboard display. That's what we want, because we want to put in a different resolution. At least we want to have a 16 by 9, right? So let's see here. 4x3, 4x3, 1610. That seems to be the lowest. Well, that's the resolution of the monitor. Oh, we can do that. Let's do it. Apply. Okay. So there we go. Yeah, we'll keep that configuration. Yeah, keep the configuration. Okay. Well, let me go back to the fonts yet again. We'll make them unnaturally large and make it easier for people who are looking on low resolution devices. Probably should have just left that alone the way it was, right? I know you guys are finding this thrilling, me playing around with the fonts, but this is what you do when you install these things, isn't it? Let's, I'll tell you what let's do. Let's just reduce the size. Do you guys mind if it's not 16 by 9? Because it seems to me that this is just small. I mean, I'm having a hard time seeing it, and I'm right in front of the screen. Let's try that and see what it looks like. That's better. That's 14 by 900. Let's try that. Well, okay, that'll do. All right. Yeah, I want to keep the configuration. Well, you're the one who keeps clicking apply. Yes, I am. That is me. Okay, the installation disk is still showing up on the desktop. Go ahead and eject that. Now with boxes, you have to go in and actually remove that. Okay, now that we have that sorted out, and I hope that you don't... A lot of people, when they install, come up with weird, wonky desktop resolutions like that. So I guess that's a pretty good record of how you would deal with it. I mean, if you've never installed it before, there you go. So it just seems to be the way it went. Now, the first thing that we need to do with any new operating system is we need to install updates. So we're going to say OK to the updater. And it's asking me to set mirrors. We can go ahead and do that now if you want to. Let's go ahead and do that, because it says everything's up to date. Did I skip that? I thought I clicked OK. So we will go to Software. And let's go ahead and pick some local mirrors here. Well, I clicked on it and ain't nothing happening. There, it finally clicked. That took a little while. Okay, so let's see if I can find some place that I recognize that is close by. So far, we're not doing too good because it's telling me that everything's unreachable. What on earth? Wait a minute. There we go. JMU, James Madison University, Harrisonburg, Virginia. We'll go with that one. Well, not yet. We'll change that when we're ready. Okay. Go ahead and cancel that. Now I clicked on that, and that's the second time that's done that, where it feels like it just locks up. And the machine's not breathing hard or anything like it's having a hard time doing it. It's just seems to be a little slower than I remember that being. Let's see if I can find JMU on this list. Probably already scrolled up past it. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so far that's unreachable. So the idea behind what we're doing right now is we're looking for mirrors that are local to us. This would be copies of the repository running on servers, usually provided by educational institutions across the country and around the world, right? So this is a nice step. This is one of the things that... This is a double-edged sword. It's a nice thing to have in Linux Mint, but then it's kind of a pain to get set up, and people can get confused, and these mirrors can get out of sync. All kinds of goofiness can happen. Are you guys seeing JMU on this list? Because I'm not. And I'm sitting here squinting, to tell you the God's honest truth. I mean, this print... That's another thing about Linux Mint that has always driven me nuts, is that there's really no way to adjust the fonts for desktop applications. That's just not really there. They don't have an adjustment for it. So you can scale things, but that's about it. And the same goes for working in GNOME sometimes. Well, I guess I'm just going to pick one of these and go on with life. Because it feels like we're just sitting here playing with this for an awful long time. And it certainly is taking it a long time to figure out that half of this is unreachable, which I don't understand why that is anyway. So we'll just pick the first thing that it came up with. Okay, now you can refresh the cache. Jeez. It took a long time. That's alright. Just be like me and take a drink off your beverage and everything will be fine. And we are updating the cache, boy, and that is slow. I wonder if there's something going on with the internet. I can see the main router from here, so I shouldn't be having any major Wi-Fi issue with this laptop, that's for sure. Because the router's right there. And I'm looking at it. Well, let's pick another mirror there because it does not like that. Okay, great. Canceling. Well, then hurry up and cancel. And now I'm locked up and I can't do anything with it. Lovely. Just lovely. Hard drive is going crazy. There we go. Let's see if we can find another one. All right. I'm just going to pick one at random. Maybe this one will work. This is bordering on the ridiculous at this point. Well, I mean, we can't really install anything or do anything until we get a repository that works, right? So we can't really do anything with it until we do this. Okay, I have an idea. Let us restart and try it again. So what I'm talking about, this being a double-edged sword. It's a great idea. When it works, it's wonderful. When it gives you a hard time like this, it's a big pain in the ass. See, that's one of the things I like about Ubuntu. You really don't ever have to mess with this stuff. Very rarely do you ever have to get in there and do anything with it. It automatically finds local mirrors and works fine that way. Linux Mint, you have to set it up manually. But you are getting a very accurate idea of what it is like to mess with this thing at this point. Okay. Alright, go back to the desktop. Alright. Acknowledge the fact that we're not running exactly the drivers that it wants. It'll probably lock that up. Let's go to software sources. Okay. Okay. Let's revert to default. And that, we'll just leave that alone. How's that? We're just not going to mess with that at all. We'll let it ride for the rest of the video. I mean, if I wanted to sit around and poke at it, I could probably get it to work. But you know what I mean? Okay, now we'll reload the cache, and we're on the defaults. So that was a fun little adventure, wasn't it? How long did that take? Another sip from the beverage. Makes me wonder. Let's see if this, just very quickly here, let's jump up here and make sure this machine no, it's doing it. Okay. I want to see, just make sure that we have internet at this point, and that it's working the way it ought to. Let's load something here. Let's load OMG Ubuntu. Yeah, we've got plenty of it. It's fine. Internet's completely okay. No problem. Okay, so that's done. Jeez Louise. Don't know what was up with that. Oh, we do have some updates to install. Should we do that now? Yes. Let's refresh it real quick. I want to see how long it takes it to refresh. Now, the reason why we are seeing the installation media, the ISO still mounted, is that's a boxes thing. I'd have to go in and do that manually. I think I mentioned that earlier, but somebody will point that out going, you ejected it and it didn't go away. No, it didn't. See what the download rates are. Well, it's not great, but it's not horrible. We will installate all of these small updates. So, yeah, it seems to be working, except that I don't know what was up with the mirrors there. I've had issues like that with Linux Mint before in the past, where you just pick the wrong time to try and change the mirror, and for some reason they're all being goofy, like maybe they're all being synced up at the same time. That's very possible. Sometimes that happens. You just have to keep poking at it. Alright, so we're up to date. Now, ordinarily I would say go ahead and reboot the machine, but I didn't see anything in there that required a reboot, and even if it does, it doesn't matter anyway. Let's see what we got here on the welcome list. It says first steps. Well, it wants us to set up the snapshots that would be the time shift utility. We're not going to do that in this video simply because of the fact that this virtual machine does not have enough hard drive space to even take one snapshot. You really need about 50 or 60 gigabytes of hard drive space if you're going to run the time shift program. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, it is a program that takes snapshots of the operating system, and then it will let you roll back if you screw something up, and it works quite well as long as you don't mess with the default settings too much. Some people want to use TimeShift to create backups on external drives, and TimeShift will do that. It doesn't do it extremely well. I don't really recommend using it that way. I recommend that you have some other kind of backup solution, like I have a script that I wrote called BU, backup USB, and so what I do on my machines is I set up TimeShift to be very simple. It only backs up the operating system, ignores all of the user files, and that way it doesn't affect what happens in the home directory if I should run into a situation where I have to restore a snapshot. Okay, we need to get our Multimedia Codecs. That we will do. Sure, yeah, absolutely. That's why I clicked on it. Alrighty. I'm excited. I'm going to get Multimedia Codecs. I noticed that it didn't ask for that at the installation like it does for Ubuntu using the Ubiquity installer. By the way, I didn't mention, I'm kind of impressed with that installation, although didn't really like the resolution of it. I think the fonts could have been a little bigger. It's just people who are starting out, man, they don't know how to immediately dive in and fix things like that, and for some folks that can be an issue. Yeah, but it seems to me these days that with the high resolution screens that we have, that the developers of a lot of systems are really forgetting about people who have visual difficulties. It's like when you boot this stuff up, grab your magnifying glass, and I like it the other way around. Make it big to start, and if people want to make their fonts tiny, those people out there that've got 2010 vision, and they want to read it from across the room on a 4K television, you go right ahead. But start out big for the rest of us, okay? Wow. Look how slow that's going. That's insane. "12 kilobits a second. That is not my connection. That is something else. Or maybe people around the world installing this? I don't know. Okay, let's see what we got going on here anyway. We've got the update manager, and then it wants us to choose a desktop layout. Well, that's pretty far down on the list. So here you can choose between the more modern look of the Cinnamon desktop, and then you can choose to go to like the older desktop look. I guess that would be, well, if you're coming from LMDE 3, you would have had a desktop that looked more like that, because I can't remember whether they actually were upgrading Cinnamon. Excuse me? Why did my desktop change color? Did you see that? Was it because I clicked on that? Yes, it was. So it rolled the theme back. Well, got system settings here. I want to switch my theme back. Wow, it even rolls back the look of the menu. It looks like an older Cinnamon menu from way back when. Got the old icons and everything. That, I have to admit, is pretty cool to do that in one fell swoop, but I was kind of digging the dark theme happening. I don't know about you guys. That's alright, gang. Don't worry. We're going to look at kernels and stuff like that in a few minutes. I'm just poking around here. This is a virtual hangout. We can't hang out in person because we're all locked up in our houses, so we're doing virtual hangouts and playing with things. Okay. Oh, you're going to keep continuing. I understand. We don't really have video drivers in GNOME boxes, gang. So, alright. Okay, now we're installing our codecs, so it must have picked up speed a little bit on the download. This is our codecs installed, so we can play MP3 files and whatever else we can do. I'm just not hip on Debian. I don't quite know how all that works. I know that they had the multimedia repository that they removed, so I guess they're getting it from somewhere else, or Mint has come up with their own or something like that. You guys who know more about Debian will be able to tell me more about that. Okay, it's not letting me do anything else until this is done. Oh, no, I can do that. I didn't really want to maximize that, but I did it anyway now, didn't I? Okay, scroll down here. Anything else to look at? Let's see. We have Software Manager. We can set up a firewall. Software Manager would be where you can go to get software. Debian is noted for being rather restrictive as far as what software is available in the repositories. Linux Mint uses Flatpaks extensively, and the idea is that they will have in Flatpak what they don't have in Debian. I'm always short a couple of packages. These days, I'm going to tell you the truth, I am a little bit more excited about snap packages than I am about Flatpaks. And the reason why is because it's been a couple of occasions now where I've needed a piece of software, like a terminal application or something like that, like the little MP3 gain program I've talked about in the past. That's now in a snap. Oh, it's so easy to install. Sudo snap install mp3 gain. Boom, done. Thank you. And I needed to install Skype on this computer to do an interview earlier this year. And did it from a snap, and it happened real fast. It was awesome. So, I couldn't believe it. I went to Microsoft's webpage for Skype, and they had the instructions there on how to install the snap, and I went, that's the way to go. I don't have to really download anything, and if I want to get rid of it, it's gone. And then I can just go through and... So, okay, that's the welcome screen. And... what's this? Didn't we click on that? Let's see what it does. Is that an extra one? It just disappeared. Okay, so let's take a look at the Software Center real quick. And we'll look around in there. And it's got to load itself up. Now remember, we're not on very fast mirrors at this point. We're on the defaults because I couldn't get the other ones to work. So it's going to take it a little while to load its cache up and get itself together. This is a pretty nice application. There's really not much to it. You just search for whatever you want. And I'm curious. Yeah, so there's no Flatpak available for that. because I'm under the impression, and I could be wrong, that this is already in setup and looking in FlatHub. So one of you guys out there need to make a flat pack of MP3 gain. That's a really cool little piece of software. What it does is, if you have a great big music collection, and I do, and you have different files from different eras and whatnot, you'll notice that the playback volume is vastly different from one to the next in most cases. And MP3 gain actually sets the playback volume in the file itself. It's not setting a replay gain in the tag. What it's doing is it's actually changing the gain in the file. So that means that regardless of what kind of hardware you're playing it back on, or what player you're using or whatever, it's going to be right. And I maintain this huge music library, which I've been working on for a very long time, and it is something that I absolutely must have around, because if I want to add anything, like I rip something from CD or something, and I still have a very huge CD collection, because I've been collecting for 30 years, and I'm hanging on to them till I die. Give my kids a big mess to clean up. But every now and again, I want to add something in the computer that didn't make it first time around, and MP3 gain has to be there because all of the other files are set with that. Okay. So I don't really know. Let's just kind of see what we got going on under the hood real quick here. Let's see. See what kernel we have. Yeah. It's a backlit keyboard. I should turn the backlighting on. So we're on kernel 419.0.8-8. That's a Debian kernel right there. What is, I think, Ubuntu 2004 is currently on kernel, I think it's 5.4. So this is a rather old kernel, but Debian will maintain it and keep it. It's like Debian doesn't really change the kernels up. Now you can go in and you can backport kernels if you want to. They will do security fixes on this kernel for a long time. So, yeah. Let's see if we can grab something out of yes. Go grab HTOP. Okay. Looking good. So I'm wondering if it created a swap partition or if it created a swap file, because it's got a 4.1 megabyte swap space there. Let's see what it did. So Q to get out of HTOP. No, what am I doing? LS block. Yep. So it created a swap partition at the front of the drive, and then it created a root partition for the rest of the drive. So this was a 21 gigabyte drive when we started. 4 gigabytes of that is swap. So basically, if you take the automatic option, what this thing is going to do is it's going to create a swap space which is a little bit bigger than your installed RAM. It's the old traditional way of doing it. In Ubuntu these days, and Linux Mint, which is based on Ubuntu, regular Linux Mint, what is done is that you take that space and you create a very large ext4 partition, and then you create a 2 gigabyte swap file if the memory in the system is well, I mean, I think it just creates 2 gigabytes, even if you have like 3 gigabytes of swap or 3 gigabytes of physical memory. It's going to create 2 gigabytes of swap. That's what it does these days, because most people out there are running systems that have, I think these days, anything between 8 and 16 is normal. 4 is getting to be a little bit restrictive, and anybody out there with less than 4 is probably one of those people who is running a Linux system and would custom install it to have some extra swap space available for it, I guess. That's what I would do. If I have small machines that have like 2 gigabytes of memory, I'll give it like 4 gigabytes of swap if I can afford it. And I don't know whether it ever uses it, but it makes me feel more comfortable. It's like that way you have a lot of virtual memory for the system to work with. But in like this machine, 4 gigabytes, I mean, maybe I would do it that way. I'm not really sure. 4 gigabytes of RAM. I think the last time that I had to install on a machine like that, I created a 4 gigabyte swap space. It just feels to me that with 4 gigabytes of RAM, if you only give it 2 gigabytes of swap, that's 6 gigabytes commit total. That doesn't seem like a lot. So, anyway. So that's how they're doing that. So that's what the automatic installer does. Don't know whether I would recommend. Well, that's the way it is, isn't it? So if you're starting out with this and you're not really hip on partitioning disks, that's what you're going to end up with. The old days, what they used to do, back when Ubuntu was still creating swap space that was a little bit bigger than the memory was, is that they would create a great big partition on the front of the disk which held your operating system and all your data, and then they would create a logical partition at the very end that would calculate that. And that was a bit restrictive, because if you ever were in a situation where you needed to upgrade your disk, like you were going to clone it and then you were going to put in a bigger disk, that swap space, moving that was really hard. You would have to delete that, and then you would have to resize your root partition, and then you would have to stick the swap space at the end of the new drive, so you'd have to recreate that, and then you would have to reflect the changes in the FS tab file so that the system could find swap. And the problem with that is that's kind of a tricky thing to do for newbies. So maybe the Linux Mint folks here have something going since they put that swap up front, because now what you could do is just very simply clone the drive and then resize that, what they're calling SDA2, that second partition there, and it would just keep on keeping on. So, yeah, maybe this is a better idea than I thought originally after all. So, it is what it is. Of course, it's all my opinion, right? And a lot of people don't care about such things anyway, but I'm a nerd, so I care about stuff like that. You know how that crap goes. Okay, gang. I mean, I think that's pretty much all the poking around we're going to do here. It seems to be Linux Mint. It seems to be what the desktop experience that we're kind of used to in Linux Mint is. It's just sitting on Debian Buster. Now, how long will this particular version last? I don't know. How long did Cindy last? 2-3 years? Seems like, I think about 3 years, right? So this could be anywhere between 3 and 5. I remember when they started LMDE 1, and that was a long time ago, dude. When was that? What, 2010? Something like that? And so these can run for a really long time. It really depends on Debian's release cycle. It's what it's based on. And Linux Mint keeps it as a backup. If for some reason someday they decide that they don't want to base on Ubuntu, then they're not going to have to base on Ubuntu. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my cat is at the window behind me, and he's scratching to get in, because I guess he hears me talking. I'm usually not up this time of the morning. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to wind this down. Final thoughts. It's Linux Mint. It's just based on Debian. If you can get the software that you need to get things done, then good for you. That's the main thing I hear with people who try this is they say, well, I can't get this to work, or this isn't available in the repos, or whatever. Flatpaks, of course, you could install install Snapd, and you could get the entire Snap world available to you. How well that works on the Cinnamon desktop, I don't really know. I haven't been running Cinnamon for quite some time. These days I use Ubuntu, and well, I'll tell you about that in just a few minutes here as I end the video. I want to tell you something about Ubuntu that I'm working on right now. So anyway, for a certain kind of user, this might be a lot of fun, especially if you know your way around Debian, and if you like Debian. It's just Debian with buttons. It's Linux Mint on Debian. So for a lot of people out there, this would be the bee's knees. It would be exactly what you wanted, right? Okay, let's go ahead and exit that. Oh, I thought I was gonna exit, man. Okay, I exited. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that mirror thing that we struggled with, but that will probably change in the next day or two. Doubt whether that's really a deep system thing going on. It might be an issue that they have to address. It might be just the mirrors as well. Okay. Greetings and salutations for the end. This rotated itself. Lovely. Hold on, gang. Let me see if I can fix this issue. Crazy, oh crazy. No, do not save it. This is the feedback slide, man. Let's try that again. Feedback. Open that up. There we go. All right. See, Control Record or Control R is how I restart the screen capture program, and it's also how you would tell this particular viewer here, this Eye of Gnome, to rotate. Sometimes that causes a problem. Haven't had that happen in quite some time, though. So, your feedback is always welcome, and you can check us out on the web at EzeeLinux.com. You can check us out on Facebook. If you are a Facebook user, give us a like. It would certainly be cool. And check out the forum as well. It's EzeeTalk, and you can get to that from EzeeLinux.com. And that's fast, free, fun, and very secure because we run it ourselves from the server. Now, wanted to tell you a little bit about something I got going on. I just posted a video a little while ago where we were kind of poking around with XFCE and Xubuntu or Xubuntu, whatever you want to call that. And shortly after that, I reformatted that machine, completely nuked and paved, and I installed Ubuntu 20.04 on it, and I'm using that as my daily machine to do my work, the radio show, emails, things like that. And when Ubuntu 20.04 comes out officially, what I plan on doing is an actual review video, because by then I will have had a lot of time with it, and I can tell you about my experience. Now, it's only been running a couple of days, and I got to tell you, it works really well. So that is out there, and will happen when they officially release it, which is coming up toward the end of April. I can't remember the exact date. I want to say the 28th, but I don't think that's right. It's a Thursday, I remember that. The Ubuntu always releases on a Thursday for some reason. And I think 20.04 is going to be a really, really good release. It looks great so far, and we're a month out from the official release, and I'm running the beta, so the daily builds, and it's all right. So anyway, thanks for hanging out with me. This has been kind of a weird little video, middle of the night, late night groove going on. Hope you enjoyed it. Love to hear your feedback about Linux Mint LMDE 4. You know, LMDE 3 was Cindy, and I had told Cindy that it was named after her. And I told her yesterday, I said, well, they have released a new version of Linux Mint Debian edition, and it's now called Debian. She was really hurt because she thought that it would be called Sendy forever. And so I had to console her a little bit on that one there. So tell me what you think of Debbie if you get a chance to play with it. All right, I'm gone. We're going to shut this thing down, upload it to YouTube, and as soon as I get it uploaded, I'm going back to bed. Talk to you guys later. Bicycle. We're rotating. I don't want to rotate. Well, maybe I got to close it. Different machine, gang. Different keyboard. Close without saving. Where's the mouse? Have I lost the mouse? I guess I have. I can't stop the recording software. Okay, go ahead and do that. There's the mouse. I can click stop here. Well, we'll pause and then I'll save it. That's as good as stop. Okay, goodbye for real this time.